The galaxy had one rule. Every species knew it. Every child learned it before they learned to count stars. Do not go to Sector 7G, do not look at it. Do not talk about it. The humans lived there and the humans wanted to be left alone. For 3,000 years, no one broke this rule. Not the mighty empires, not the desperate refugees, not even the curious scientists who mapped every other corner of space. The boundary around human territory was more sacred than any god, more feared than any weapon. Ambassador thought this was stupid. He stood on the bridge of his warship, the Eternal Dominion, and stared at the forbidden sector on his navigation screen. His species, had conquered 12 star systems. They had crushed armies and burned worlds. They bowed to no one. So why should they bow to some primitive species, hiding in a forgotten corner of the galaxy? The scouts have returned, said his advisor, an old named. They scanned the human. Clicked his sharp teeth together. This was already a crime. Scanning human space broke every law the Galactic Concord had ever made, but did not care about laws made by cowards. What did they find? Pulled up the data on the main screen. A blue and green planet appeared, oceans and continents, small stations floating in orbit, ships moving slowly between nearby worlds. They call it Earth, said. Population around 10 billion, technology is strange, advanced in some ways, primitive in others. Their ships travel between stars but slowly, very slowly. No great fleets, no planetary shields, no weapons platforms. None that our sensors could detect. Laughed. The sound echoed across the bridge and his officers shifted nervously. They had all grown up with stories about the humans, terrible stories, but had never believed in fairy tales. 3,000 years, he said, 3,000 years of fear, and for what? A single planet of soft creatures with slow ships. He turned to face his crew. The Conquered has lied to us. There is nothing special about the humans. They are weak, and we have been fools to avoid them. Stepped closer and lowered his voice. Ambassador, the old records say. The old records say nothing useful. They speak of something called the silencing, but there is no proof it ever happened. No evidence. No survivors. Nothing but ghost stories. Perhaps, said carefully, the lack of survivors is itself evidence. Ignored him. He opened a channel to his fleet. 47 warships waited for his command. The pride of the hegemony. Enough firepower to crack a planet in half. All vessels, he announced, set course for Earth. We will make first contact with the humans. We will show them the strength of and we will return home as heroes. The fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying death toward a world that had not known war in 3,000 years. On Earth, in a small coffee shop in Seoul, a woman named was reading poetry on her tablet. She had dark hair tied back simply, plain clothes, no jewelry except a thin bracelet on her wrist. She looked completely ordinary. The bracelet made a soft sound. Sighed and tapped it twice. This is Watcher, report. A voice spoke directly into her mind. No speakers, no radio waves, just words appearing in her thoughts like memories she had not made yet. 47 vessels have crossed the boundary, hegemony, weapons ready. They will reach Earth in 16 hours. Closed her eyes. She had been a watcher for 200 years. In all that time, no one had been stupid enough to bring a war fleet to Earth. Small violations, yes, lost ships, curious explorers. Those were handled quietly, but this was different. Has the Council been told? Yes, they have approved standard response. Standard response. Had hoped she would never hear those words. The last time they used standard response was 800 years ago against a species called There were no anymore. There were no stars where they used to live, just empty darkness where light itself refused to go. I want to try talking to them first, she said. The Council agrees. You have been named primary contact. Finished her tea. It would be wasteful to leave it. Then she stood up, paid for her drink and walked outside into the busy streets of Seoul. People hurried past her, living their normal lives. They had no idea that warships were coming. They had no idea that their species could unmake stars. That was the point of the Watchers, to carry the burden so others did not have to. "Open a channel to the flagship," she said. "Opening now." On the Eternal Dominion, every screen suddenly showed the same image. A human woman, ordinary-looking, sitting in what appeared to be a street cafe with strange symbols on the signs behind her. "Greetings," she said in perfect language. "My name is I am a Watcher of Earth. You have entered our space." Recovered quickly from his surprise. "I am Ambassador. We come in peace to establish relations between our peoples." "You brought 47 warships." "A standard escort for diplomatic missions." Smiled, but her eyes stayed cold. "Ambassador, I will ask you once politely. Turn your fleet around. Go back to conquered space. Send a proper contact request through official channels. We will respond in a century or two." Showed his teeth. Among this was a threat display. "You dare give orders to the hegemony." "I am giving you a chance." His voice did not change. "You have 12 hours. Use them wisely." The screen went dark. Turned to his officers. "Continue course to Earth, maximum speed." Grabbed his arm. "Ambassador, please, something is wrong here." She was not afraid, not even a little. Because she is bluffing. The humans have no power. They have only reputation, and reputation is just lies that enough people believe. He shook off his grip. "In 12 hours, the galaxy will learn the truth about humanity." He was right about that, at least. The galaxy would indeed learn the truth. But not the truth expected. 12 hours passed like water through open fingers. The fleet hung above Earth, weapons pointed at the blue world below, had expected something by now. Defense platforms rising from the oceans, hidden fleets jumping in from behind moons, some kind of resistance. Instead, nothing happened. On the planet's surface, cities glowed in the darkness. Aircraft moved through the sky. People walked through streets and parks and markets. Life continued as if 47 warships were not aiming enough weapons to burn continents at their heads. "They are not even running away," whispered. He stood beside on the bridge, watching the sensor displays with growing fear. 10 billion people, and none of them are hiding. "Because they do not know we are here," said, but his voice had lost some of its certainty. "Their government is keeping it secret to prevent panic. Or they know something we do not." Made a sharp gesture with his claws. He was tired of waiting, tired of feeling the strange cold in his stomach that felt too much like fear. He did not feel fear. "Weapons officer," he called out. "Prepare a demonstration strike. Low power. Target the peninsula where the human woman sent her message from. We will show them what happens when you threaten the hegemony." The bridge went quiet. Even the officers who had laughed at the one rule now looked uncertain. Stepped forward. "Ambassador, perhaps we should." "Do it." 3 balls of plasma launched from the lead warships. Perfect shots. They fell toward the Korean peninsula like angry stars, bright enough to be seen from space. They never landed. Halfway through the atmosphere, the plasma charges stopped. They simply froze in the air, hanging like drops of water caught in time. Then slowly, gently, they began to rise, back through the clouds, back through the atmosphere, back into space, faster and faster until they disappeared into the black. No explosion, no warning shot fired back, just the quiet return of their own weapons, like a parent handing back a dangerous toy to a foolish child. Every on the bridge stared at their screens. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. The only sound was the soft hum of the ship systems. "What?" His voice cracked. He tried again. "What was that?" Before anyone could answer, his face appeared on every screen. She was not in the coffee shop anymore. She stood in a garden filled with pink flowering trees. Soft petals fell around her like snow. Ambassador, her voice was different now, harder, older somehow. I gave you 12 hours. You chose to fire on our world. A warning shot. You fired on our world. The words fell like stones. Do you understand what you have done? Tried to gather his pride. I will not be threatened by a species that hides from the galaxy. If you had real power, you would fight back. Your weakness is obvious. Our restraint is the only reason your species still exists. She raised her hand. The stars changed. Every navigation officer on every ship began shouting at once. The stars were wrong. The positions made no sense. The databases could not match anything. And Earth's sun, it was smaller now, farther away, as if they had moved millions of kilometers in less than a heartbeat. What happened? Grabbed his console to stay standing. Where are we? His voice was hollow. We have been moved, the entire fleet, instantly, without any ship, without any technology, without anything we can even detect. Where? The answer came from. Her face still filled every screen. I brought you somewhere quiet, somewhere you can see clearly. Her voice held no anger, only exhaustion. Look to your right, look at what is not there. Looked, and he saw nothing. Not darkness. Darkness would have been better. This was absence. A piece of the universe where stars should have been, where galaxies should have turned in their ancient dance. Instead, there was only emptiness. A hole in reality stretching across a quarter of the visible sky. What is that? His legs felt weak. He leaned against his console. What am I looking at? That is where they used to be. His voice carried no pride, no satisfaction. 800 years ago, the Empire decided to test our boundaries. They sent 10,000 warships, the largest fleet the galaxy had ever seen. You destroyed their fleet. We destroyed their stars. Each word landed like a hammer. Every star they had ever touched, every world they had ever built, every ship, every station, every satellite, not just destroyed, ambassador, unmade, removed from existence so completely that even light from the past cannot escape that region anymore. 12 billion gone in a single moment, not because we hated them, because we needed to be absolutely sure no one would ever test us again. His legs gave out. He fell against his console, sliding down to the floor. His sharp teeth hung loose. His pride was forgotten. Was crying. The old advisor stood with tears running down his face. The silencing, he whispered. It was real. All of it was real. The silencing was necessary. His image flickered. We cannot allow ourselves to be pulled into conflict. Every time we fight, every time we use our power, we remember how good we are at it, how easy it is, and the temptation to solve every problem with that power. She stopped, started again. We to protect the galaxy from ourselves. The conquered keeps the boundary because they understand what we are. Looked up from the floor. His voice was barely a whisper. What are you? Smiled. It was the saddest smile he had ever seen. We are human, ambassador. That has always been the problem. The screen went dark, leaving the fleet alone in the shadow of the expanse, surrounded by the grave of a civilization that had made the same mistake they almost made. Helped to his feet, neither of them spoke. What was there to say? Somewhere in the darkness, 12 billion ghosts watched them, silent witnesses to the price of disturbing humanity's peace. The fleet drifted in the cold space near the expanse. Ambassador had not spoken in hours. He sat in his command chair, staring at the emptiness that had once been an empire. Finally broke the silence. We must tell the conquered. The other species need to know what we have seen. Know what? His voice was flat, dead. That we are all alive because the humans allow it. That every war we have ever won, every world we have ever conquered, happened only because they did not care enough to stop us. On the main screen, still watched them. She had not closed the communication channel. Behind her, the pink trees kept dropping their petals in an endless cycle. You are wondering why we do not simply rule. It was not a question. She spoke as if reading his thoughts. If we are so powerful, why hide? Why ask permission? Why let the galaxy grow on its own? The thought came to me, admitted. His pride was gone, only confusion remained. Walked through her garden, touching the falling petals with her fingers. 3,000 years ago, we tried the other way. We decided we knew what was best. We were going to fix the galaxy, end all suffering, stop all wars, build a perfect universe under human protection. What happened? We succeeded. The word hung in the air like poison. For almost 100 years there was peace, real peace. No species fought because they knew we would stop them. No civilizations fell because we were always there to catch them. Everyone was safe. Everyone was owned. She stopped walking. Then we noticed what we were becoming, not protectors, masters. Every decision in the galaxy needed our approval because nothing could happen without us. We were not saving life. We were strangling it. So you left. We had to. Freedom means nothing if it is given by someone who can take it away whenever they want. Turn back to face the screen. The galaxy needed to grow alone, make its own mistakes, fight its own battles, become something more than our pets. Spoke up, his voice still shook. But you still watch, you still have the power. Yes, no comfort in the word. We watch, we wait, and we hope we never have to use it again. Her eyes found. Do you understand now? The one rule exists not to protect us. We do not need protection. It exists to protect you. Every time we touch the galaxy, the temptation comes back. The certainty that we could do it better. And if the temptation wins? Did not answer. She did not need to. Deep beneath the mountains of Earth, in a chamber carved from ancient stone, the council of watchers met. 12 humans sat in a circle. Their chairs were simple wood. Their clothes were plain. Nothing about them showed power. Nothing hinted at the forces they controlled. Except their eyes. Their eyes were old, so very old. The ambassador has seen the expanse, said an elderly man named. His hair was white. His face was lined with centuries. He understands now. Understanding is not the same as accepting, replied a young woman named. She looked 25 years old. She had been a watcher for 400 years. They are proud. Proud species do not forgive humiliation easily. He was not humiliated. His voice came through a speaker. She was still in her garden, still watching over the distant fleet. He was educated. To him, there is no difference. Raised his hand. The question we must answer is simple. Do we return to conquered space, or do we use full silencing? Silence filled the chamber. Full silencing. The final answer. Not just the fleet. The entire civilization, erased as completely as the billions of lives ended because their leaders could not respect a boundary. That seems like too much, said a middle-aged man named. Before becoming a watcher, he had been a farmer. Some nights he still dreamed of his rice fields. They fired warning shots. Nobody died. Nobody died yet, said. But's pride will not simply disappear. He will return to his people. He will tell them some version of what happened. And then what? Do we wait for the next fleet, the next test? We have waited before. Not everyone can afford to wait. His voice grew harder. They have conquered 12 systems. They have crushed dozens of species under their rule. How many have suffered while we sat in our precious isolation? This was the old argument, the eternal argument. It had torn the council apart before in the early centuries. It threatened to do so again. We are not responsible for every bad thing in the galaxy, said firmly. That path leads only to tyranny. Does it, or does it lead to a universe where creatures like the cannot hurt the weak? Enough, his voice cut through the speaker. I have an idea. The council fell silent. They listened. We returned to their space, all of them, no harm. In exchange, they carry a message to the conquered. What message? Asked. A new offer, a new arrangement. Paused. For 3,000 years we have hidden. We have told ourselves that staying apart was wisdom, but maybe it was just cowardice dressed in noble clothes. Maybe there is a middle path, not ruling, not hiding, something else. What else is there? I do not know yet, but I think it is time we found out. The council looked at each other. Some faces showed doubt, some showed hope, some showed fear. Finally nodded. Prepare the message. Let us see what the galaxy makes of it. In her garden closed her eyes. The petals fell around her like tears. 3,000 years of silence was about to end. She did not know if what came next would be better or worse. But she knew it would be different. And sometimes different was enough. Did not remember how he reached Earth's surface. One moment he stood on his bridge, surrounded by the void where they used to exist. The next moment he was standing in the garden, pink petals catching in his rough skin. Waited for him under an ancient tree. Its branches reached toward the sky like arms raised in prayer. "Ambassador," she said, "thank you for coming." Did I have a choice? Always, you always have a choice. That is rather the point of everything. She pointed to a stone bench near the tree. Sat. Not because she ordered him to, but because his legs were tired and his pride had been beaten down enough that comfort seemed more important than standing. "Your council has been deciding what to do with me," he said. "With us, your fate and ours are connected now." Sat beside him, leaving space between them. "You have forced us to face something we have been avoiding for a very long time. The temptation you spoke of. Partly, but also the question of whether hiding is still the right choice." She watched the petals fall. 3,000 years is a long time, long enough for us to forget what the galaxy is really like, long enough to convince ourselves that staying away was wisdom instead of fear. Clicked his teeth. "You call yourselves afraid after what I saw. Power without purpose is just another way of hiding." Smile was bitter. "We told ourselves that stepping back was noble, that letting the galaxy grow naturally served some higher good, but the truth is we were scared, not of losing, we cannot lose, scared of becoming something we could not live with. And now I have been given permission to make you an offer." The terms were simple, they were also impossible and terrifying. "You want to do what?" asked later, when returned to his ship and gathered his officers. "They will send us back to space, full fleet, no damage, no punishment," still could not quite believe it himself. "In return, we deliver a message to the galactic conquered." What message? Played the recording had given him. Her face appeared on the bridge's main screen. "To all civilizations of the galactic conquered," she said, "the Watchers of Earth have observed your growth for 3,000 years. We stayed apart because we believed isolation helped both you and us. Recent events have made us think again. The boundary around our space remains. We do not want casual contact. We do not seek trade or alliance or tribute. However, we see now that our silence has allowed suffering we might have stopped. So we offer this. Any civilization that faces true extinction may send one unarmed ship to our boundary. Tell us your situation. If we believe your cause is just, we may help. Choose your requests carefully. We will not fight your wars. We will not solve your problems. We will not save you from the results of your own choices. But if something threatens to end your species forever, if you face an enemy or disaster that will destroy everything you are, call upon us. We may answer, we may not. That uncertainty is deliberate. Remember the one rule. Remember that mercy is always a choice, one we are not required to make twice. This message ends. Do not reply, we are always watching." The recording stopped. His voice was barely a whisper. "They are offering protection. Maybe conditional protection, or maybe it is another test." Shook his head. "A way to see which civilizations are desperate enough to approach them." "Does it matter?" a younger officer spoke up. "If they wanted us dead, we would be dead. If they wanted the galaxy conquered, it would be conquered. Whatever game they are playing, we do not have the pieces to compete." Looked at the blank screen where his face had been. No, he said slowly. We do not, but perhaps that was always the point. The fleet began its journey home. On Earth, returned to her garden, the council had approved the message. The first step had been taken. Now came the hard part, waiting to see what grew from the seed they had planted. Joined her as the sun began to set. Orange light painted the clouds. Do you think they will accept it? He asked. The conquered, I mean, the message. Some will call it a trap, some will pretend they never received it, picked up a fallen petal. It was soft as silk against her fingers. But the galaxy will know we are watching, that we might help, that the one rule has a footnote now. You sound unsure. I am unsure. We have been certain for 3,000 years, certain that isolation was right, certain that we knew best. She let the petal fall. Being uncertain feels strange, but also honest. More honest than pretending we had all the answers. Nodded slowly. The younger watchers are excited. They have spent centuries guarding a door that never opened. Now it might open a crack. A crack is all we can allow, for now. Turn to face him. If we open too wide, too fast, we become what we were before, rulers instead of helpers, parents instead of partners. And if we stay closed, then we are just ghosts, powerful ghosts, but ghosts all the same, watching life without touching it. She smiled. Neither extreme serves anyone. Perhaps wisdom is finding the space between. The sun sank lower. Stars began to appear one by one, filling the darkening sky. Somewhere among those stars, the fleet was carrying humanity's message to a galaxy that had feared them for 3,000 years. Somewhere among those stars, civilizations would soon face a choice: accept the humans' offer or continue alone. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, the expanse waited, a permanent reminder of what happened when humans stopped holding back. Hoped the reminder would be enough. She hoped they would never have to make another one. 5 years passed. The fleet's return had shaken the galaxy like an earthquake shakes the ground. Ambassador's speech before the conquered assembly was broadcast to 1,000 worlds. Every species heard his words. Every species saw his fear. The humans were real. The expanse was real. And the one rule was no longer just tradition. It was terrified absolute law. Different species reacted in different ways. Some added human names to their lists of gods and monsters. Others started secret research projects, desperately searching for any weapon that might balance the scales. Most simply continued living their lives, trying not to think about the creatures watching from the quiet corner of the galaxy. The change the most was no longer an ambassador. He had given up that title. Now he stood in the grand hall of Prime, speaking to the gathered leaders of his people. For generations, we said strength meant dominance. We said power meant control. We conquered because we could, and we called it glory. His voice echoed off the ancient stone walls. I have seen true power. It looks like a woman standing in a garden. It speaks softly, and it chose mercy when it had every right to destroy us. The hall was silent. No clicking teeth, no whispered objections. We cannot match human strength. We will never match it. No species in this galaxy can. Spread his claws wide. So I say we stop trying. I say we learn what the humans discovered 3,000 years ago. The greatest power is the wisdom not to use it. On Earth, watched the broadcast from her garden. The trees had bloomed and dropped their petals 5 times since the left. 5 years of waiting to see what would grow. Sat beside her, drinking tea. He speaks better than he commanded ships. He is sincere. Poured more tea into her own cup. Whether sincerity will survive politics is another question. You sound doubtful. I sound realistic. They did not become conquerors by accident. Their entire culture was built on dominance. One speech will not undo 100 generations of training. But it is a start. Perhaps, she set down the teapot, has the council decided about the... His expression grew dark. They have confirmed the problem. Their sun is dying. Natural causes, nothing they did. They have maybe 50 years before their system becomes impossible to live in. And they have asked for our help. They have asked permission to send a ship to our boundary to make their case. Sipped his tea. They are the first to use the new offer. Was quiet for a long moment. What did we promise if a civilization faced real extinction? We said we might help. We were very careful about the word might. Yes, we were. She stared into her cup. And now 7 billion are waiting to find out what might actually means. The ship arrived at the boundary 3 days later, a small vessel, unarmed as required. It carried 7 passengers. Their leader was a female named. She was not a politician or a soldier. She was a poet. We do not come demanding, she said when met her at the boundary. We come asking, hopping, praying if that word means anything to you. It does, studied her visitor. Tall, graceful, with patterns of light moving across her skin that changed with her emotions. Tell me about your people. We are small. In the grand scheme of things, we never built empires, never conquered anyone. Our greatest achievement is a form of musical mathematics, songs that describe the shapes of space itself. We share them with anyone who wants to learn. Songs. Art, beauty, understanding. Slight patterns flickered with something like shame. We have nothing to offer you. No weapons, no tribute, no useful alliance. We have only ourselves and the small, beautiful things we have made. In 50 years they will all be gone. Was silent for a long time. Come with me, she said finally. There is someone you should meet. The council's decision took 3 months, not because the vote was close. In the end, only 2 watchers voted against helping. The delay was because moving an entire species to a new world required careful planning. They had to find the right planet, prepare it for life, figure out how to transport 7 billion people without making them dependent on human help forever. These were problems the Watchers had never solved before, problems they had deliberately avoided for 3,000 years. But solving them felt good. It felt like growth. The day the last reached their new home stood on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The sun was setting, painting the sky in colors that had no names. Appeared behind her, you seem troubled. I am thinking about what's said. The greatest power is the wisdom not to use it. A good lesson. A true lesson, but not complete. She turned to face him. We thought staying apart was wisdom. For 3,000 years we told ourselves that not using our power was the same as using it wisely. But it was not. It was just not using it. And now I think wisdom is not about using power or not using it. It is about knowing when each choice is right, knowing when holding back serves life, and when it just makes us feel noble while others suffer. Nodded, that is why the council approved the mission. One mission, one species saved. There are thousands in the galaxy, millions maybe across the universe. We cannot save them all. No, but we can save some. He put a hand on her shoulder. 3,000 years ago we chose to sleep. Now perhaps it is time to wake up, not to conquer, not to rule, just to be present, to help where we can, to trust ourselves enough to participate without losing who we are. Watched the sun sink below the horizon. The stars were coming out one by one, countless points of light, each one a world, a story, a possibility. The stars themselves tremble, she murmured. What? Something I read once, old human writing. It said the stars themselves tremble at what we might become. She smiled. I always thought it meant they were afraid of us. Now I wonder if maybe they were hopping, wondering if we would ever figure out what we were for. Have we? She thought about the singing on their new world, about the trying to build a culture based on something other than conquest, about a galaxy that had lived for 3,000 years in the shadow of human power and was only now learning that shadows could become shelter. We are starting to, she said, and maybe that is enough. The last light faded. The stars filled the sky, ancient and patient. Somewhere out there, civilizations were watching, waiting, hopping. And for the first time in 3,000 years, humanity was watching back, not as gods, not as monsters, just as neighbors, finally ready to say hello.